Hi, it's Jo Karen Hudson. In this video, we're going to talk about more on simplifying radicals. So we'll start off with multiplying the following radicals. So we have the square root of 7. We're going to distribute the square root of 7 with the square root of 5 minus the square root of 7. The square root of 7 times the square root of 5 would be the square root of 35. Then we have the square root of 7 times the square root of 7 times the square root of 7, it's going to be minus, would be the square root of 49. So we have the square root of 35 minus the square root of 49 is 7. Example 2. We're going to FOIL this one out. First, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 would be the square root of 9. The outside would be minus 5 square roots of 3. The inside would be plus 5 square roots of 3. And the last, positive times a negative, would be negative 25. Square root of 9 will turn into 3. The negative 5 square roots of 3 and the positive 5 square roots of 3 drop out. So we have 3 minus 25, which would be negative 22. Example 3. We're squaring 2 minus the square root of 7. That means we're going to write it down. 2 minus the square root of 7 times itself. Multiply it by itself. So we'll start off the first. 2 times 2 would be 4. The outer, positive times a negative, would be negative 2 square roots of 7. The inner would be negative 2 square roots of 7. And the last would be a negative times a negative, which would give us a positive, the square root of 49. So we have 4 minus, let's see, negative 2 square roots of 7 and another negative 2 square roots of 7 would be negative 4 square roots of 7 plus the square root of 49, which is 7. 4 plus 7 is 11 minus 4 square roots of 7. And we can't do anything else to those because those are not like terms. Example 3, I'm going to FOIL this out. I'm going to write all this down. 2 square roots of 7 I'm multiplying times the square root of 3 plus 2 square roots of 7 I'm multiplying by 8 minus 4 I'm multiplying by the square root of 3 and negative 4 I'm multiplying times positive 8. So that I have 2 square roots of 21 plus 16 square roots of 7 minus 4 square roots of 3 minus 32. There are no like terms here, so we cannot simplify this any further. Okay, continuing with solving a radical equation. A radical equation has variables in one or more of the radicals. To solve a radical equation, first of all, we'll isolate the radical on one side of the equation. If the radical is a square root, we're going to square both sides of the radical equation. So step 3, we want to solve for x and check in the original equation. So we'll start off, let's see, the radical is isolated. It is on one side of the equal mark. Isolate the radical on one side of the equation. So that's already taken care of it. And it's a square root, so we're going to square both sides of the radical equation. So when we square both sides, when I square the left side, when I do the square root of 2x plus 7 times itself, it just lifts the radical. And then I'm going to square the 5 squared. You remember if I have the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, it becomes the square root of 4 and just reverts back to 2. It just lifts the radical. That's what happens with the square root of 2x plus 7. When we square it, it just becomes 2x plus 7 equal to 5 squared, which is 25. And then I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. So I'll have 2x is equal to 25 minus 7, which is 18. Dividing by 2, x is equal to 9. So now I'm going to check it. You have to check it back into the original because sometimes you'll introduce extraneous roots. The square root of 2 times 9 plus 7 is equal to 5. This is my check. So I have the square root of 18 plus 7 is equal to 5. we know that 18 plus 7 would give us the square root of 25 is equal to 5, or I'll have 5 is equal to 5, so this does check. And this is my solution, x equals to 9. On my second problem, my square root symbol is isolated, so I'll start with step 2 by squaring both sides. When I square this, you see it just lifts the radical off. 5x plus 1 is equal to, when I square negative 9, I'll have negative 9 times negative 9, which is positive 81. So now I'm going to solve for x, so I'll subtract 1 from both sides. I'll have 5x is equal to 80. Dividing by 5, x is equal to 16. Now let's check and make sure that we haven't introduced an extraneous root. Sometimes when you square a negative, that happens. So we have the square root of 5 times 16 plus 1 is equal to negative 9. Or we have the square root of 80 plus 1 is equal to negative 9. Or we have the square root of 81, which is equal to negative 9. But the square root of 81 is 9, and 9 is not equal to negative 9. We have introduced an extraneous root, and this problem actually will have no solution. Okay, we've got to isolate our radical on one side of the equal mark, so I'm going to add the 17 first. Add 17, so that I'll have the square root of 8x is equal to negative 3 plus 17, which would be 14. And then I'm going to square both sides. Square both sides. The square root of 8x squared would be 8x, and 14 squared would be 196. And then when I divide by 8, x would equal to 8 into 196. Let's see. It doesn't go evenly, but we can reduce it. Let's see, if we divide both of these by 4, I believe it will reduce to 4 divided by 196 divided by 4 would be 4 into 196 would be 49, and 8 divided by 4 would be 2. So this is a potential solution, and I hope it will turn out to be a solution. It's a possible solution at this point. Let's check. The square root of 8 times 49 over 2 minus 17 is equal to negative 3. So we have, I can cancel this out. 2 goes into 8 4 times, so I have 49 times 4, which is 196, minus 17 equals negative 3. And we know that the square root of 196 is 14, so that I have 14 minus 17, which is equal to negative 3, or negative 3 is equal to negative 3. This does check. This is a valid solution. This is Jo Karen Hudson. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.